from CoWork591 Studios and its patios in beautiful downtown Jesup.
Downtown Jesup, Al Fresco.
This is the birthplace of Al Fresco.
Al Fresco. If Blake had one of them little white aprons, we could be in Paris, you know. It'd just be like that. The bistros, the outdoor cafes or something. Huh?
We could.
We need to think these things through and plan ahead, so.
All right, this is the birthplace of the Bohemian Revolution right here on this patio, and we are the Bohemian Underground.
That's right.
With producer Blake Tempus in this corner and co-host Dale Rueber in this corner.
We have our own corners. That's wonderful.
I am Jim Gillespie, the referee.
The referee, yep.
And this is the July 6, 2025 episode. We are sponsored by Mickey's D's Pizza and Lobster. The Pharaohs are kind sponsors of this podcast. Include them in your wedding, graduation, or festival plans. They are in Rhinebeck this weekend.
Okay.
Stop by and see them if you're over there. Don't wait. Their schedule's filling up for the 2025 season. They are sponsoring a traveling art show for us for the Steve Brown Art Center. Thanks again to them for doing that traveling art show. They sold a piece of art for us at the Farmer's Day.
Okay.
A piece of Nick Thomas art. Another sponsor who's been with us since the birth of the Steve Brown Art Center is Derek's Repair, located in Jesup, Iowa. Contact Derek Marty for your car repair needs. Also check out the podcast, What Is Up, with our friend and cohort Bubba Seaman. Next week we are playing part 2 of our interview with Bubba Seaman, as I am going to be in Lithuania on assignment.
We plan on hearing a lot about Lithuania.
All right.
First of all, you have to spell it for us, and then we'll go from there.
All right, I'll sing you a Lithuanian folk song
that would
when
be
I
nice.
come back.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll play the music on a zither or whatever they have over there. So.
There's new kazoos out there.
Are there really?
I
didn't know that.
They sound just like real like bugles and the like.
Okay.
Also, check out the previous podcast. Last week we had BJ Youngblood. That diet we talked about, talk to your doctor before going on the diet, please.
You're chicken out.
Please just don't dive into that diet.
Yeah, that's what we probably should do, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fine. Speaking of BJ.
Is he on the line now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He is texting me.
Okay.
And I will text him back as we are talking.
He probably wants a vegetable. He said, my kingdom for a vegetable. You don't think so?
He might.
Yeah.
He might. So, Dale, let's start with the news. Are we at war with Iran right now?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know. It doesn't seem like war to me. And Blake's still in his civvies, and he's the right age. So, no, it's interesting, the stuff that's going on. And I'm sitting here looking. The wind has been bad several days. The two big American flags that we can see out here, one on the gazebo and one on the flagpole, both of them starting to rip, and so they need to be replaced. And the city's pretty good about replacing those, because otherwise those old veterans come down and start yelling at them.
Yeah,
but flags are expensive, and they rip fairly easily because of all those stripes. Talked a little bit about Farmers Day last week, and
no, wait a second. You're getting away on me here,
oh, okay.
Dale. Let's go back to are we at war with Iran?
Okay, no, we're not.
That's all you're gonna say is no, we're not.
Well, we haven't hit the beaches yet, and we've only dropped 7 or 8 bombs. That's not really war. That's like a police action or something.
So
and Congress did not declare war on Iran, so therefore we are not at war with Iran.
So the Korean War wasn't a war either.
No, not really. It was a war in everything but name. You make laws, you make rules, you make regulations, but you also make ways to waltz around them. And so they were able to waltz around the rule that the Congress has to declare war with this police action thing, or working with the United Nations. And so, but the idea that thousands of soldiers were fighting, thousands got killed, that's a war. So depends on how, what do you really mean when you say war. But
right.
As far as Iran, as far as I know, we have no troops on the ground in that country that I know of. And we're not trying to take any territory. We're not trying to capture any people or ground or anything, so it doesn't sound like much of a war to me.
Okay, all right. President Trump calls it the 12-day. He wants to call it the 12-day war.
Yeah. Well, constantly filling out his presidential resume, like he's going to run for president again somewhere else, and he needs a resume of presidential kinds of things. I don't know if the great presidents have won a war of one kind or another.
Yeah.
It seemed like, and he needs that on his resume. Is all I can say.
Okay.
My opinion.
Yeah. You talked about. Let's go to Farmers Day. Forgive me for interrupting you.
That's all right. I'm sorry.
No.
I just started wandering there, but no, I was thinking the other day about how Farmers Day brings people together and you meet people. And for years, I've been helping Jim McCarty set up the parade up there. And he stands on 6th and Prospect, and I stand on 5th and Prospect, and you try to line the floats and everything up and keep people from getting run over. And also to let people know, if you go this way and this way, you can get out of town in case you don't want to be in the parade. And so a guy comes up, parks in a DeLorean. He said, Mr. Rueber. And so geez, it's one of, I know I should know. Well, it was Clint Fortier.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got a DeLorean. He looks really good. Slim, got, short haircut, and just looked different. And so we talked for quite a while. And I learned something is, if you remember, the DeLorean was in the Back to the Future movies.
Right.
And in the Back to the Future, how fast does the DeLorean have to get to go from one time warp to another? Do you remember?
Was that 80? I can't remember.
Yeah, 88.
88? Okay.
Well, the speedometer only goes to 85 on a DeLorean. So they had to put a new one in the car they used when they were making the movie. And I had not known that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I said something to Clint about it. Cars didn't need to go faster than 85 because that was the fastest speed limit in the country, and which I don't know which state that was. So there's no need for speedometers to go past 85, and so that was kind of the law or the rule they went by.
Okay.
And so that's why the DeLorean only went to 85, but it needed to go to 88 to meet the script for some reason. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Now the guy up there, he's setting up his float, and he looks at me and he said, how long you been doing this? And I said, oh man, I don't know, but a long time, more than 20 years, more than 25 probably, because I did it with Wayne Natvig, for years,
okay.
And then and now with Jim McCarty, and so it's interesting. I get sunburn every year, but it's just nice to see the things that come up and talk to people. And one year a guy did come up. He came up 5th Street. He stopped at the stop sign of Prospect, and I walked down to talk to him, and you're going to be in the parade? No, he says, I just want to go to Fairbank. I said, well, you need to go left here down to 1st Street and then up to North Street and back, But, so that has happened a few times where somebody just got involved with all that traffic and everything, and so.
So would you say the parade is your favorite part of Farmers Day?
Oh, I like the parade. That's usually the time when my family can come, they're all there. And we always sit down around the corner by the library, blankets and chairs, and all the kids are there and they get the candy. And I enjoy that. And I enjoy, setting up the parade and talking to people up there. And you did a fantastic job. Look in the Bulletin Journal, you see Jim Gillespie waving his role as Grand Marshal. He did a wonderful job waving. And did you go both sides, or you didn't discriminate? You just go right-handed?
I wandered. Every once in a while. I would have to remind myself. But I want to publicly thank you and Blake for going around picking up all the tomatoes before the parade started. Thank you so much.
We take care of our own in this podcast business.
Yes.
So, I was thinking about Clint Fortier. When he was in high school, he taught himself how to play the piano, and he knew one song. So he asked the minister offered to let him play a song in church. So he came. It was the special music in a Sunday's church service. It was "Great Balls of Fire" by Jerry. Everybody goes, whoa, but it was really good. They gave him a nice round of applause when he was done. But I bet that's the only church service ever that played "Great Balls of Fire."
Yeah,
so
I would agree with that.
It was kind of fun.
What's your favorite food at Farmers Day?
Well, it used to be every year I had a bratwurst at the lunch, and I had one this year. But then they've been branching out into tenderloins, and this year, Miller's had these little tenderloin sliders.
Oh yeah.
And I had a couple of those, and I thought those were really good because I like tenderloins, but they were smaller, and so you got 2 of them, and so I thought that was really good. So the Methodists, they have popcorn and ice cream, which is always, people say, oh, this is the best ice cream. Well, it's the same ice cream that the Dairy Cone sells, because that's where they get their mix, and we use the same kind of machine. But the ice cream is good. So yeah, but I like those little sliders. I don't think they've had those before. So,
you know, we're real lucky whenever we do, whenever the Steve Brown Arts Center does something, they put us right in between Mickey D's, the show sponsor, the pizza, and the Millers there, and both of them always feed us.
Yeah.
I was telling on last week's show, Mickey D made a special pizza for me, and I texted him today and thanked him for that again.
I don't remember the name of the truck, but they had the 12 flavors of lemonade.
Oh, yes.
And did a lot of business, and the guy, this is their first time at Farmers Day. They're just recent Jesup. And we try very hard just to have locals. You know, we don't have somebody from Waterloo or whatever coming in, local people, the Lions, the Scouts, and then these people that have their trucks to sell food at Farmers Day. Of course, the Carnival has their own little food stands, but other than that, but this, and I'm trying to think of the name and I can't, but the guy came for Thursday, sold out of everything. So surprised. He had to go and get a lot more stuff to run through Friday and Saturday. He had no idea. And he told us that after Farmers Day, he was going to Colorado to do 20 different county fairs. But he said next year, if it's like this, he's going to do Farmers Day and then do county fairs in Iowa and not go to Colorado. So I thought that said a lot for him. Yeah, he was very surprised at the business, and he saw a lot of people with those big cups of lemonade, all the different flavors and everything, and people debating what was the best flavor. And so, no, they were a nice addition, I think.
It was his wife that bought that Nick Thomas piece from us.
Yeah. Okay. So now Mr. Miller has said he's going to retire.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was going to finish his summer, and he was going to sell his truck.
His food truck.
Yeah, next spring when it's the season starts. He says no good selling it in the fall, but in the spring there might be a demand for it. But his wife said she will believe it when she sees it. So we'll have to wait and see.
He has a regular job. He's like Mike Farrell. Mr. Miller has a regular job. He helps his son with his lawn mowing company.
Yeah.
And then he does the food truck.
Yeah.
So there's no downtime for him.
But I think he enjoys it a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the food truck business. And well, I guess that was at Mickey D's. He had his wife and his in-laws working for him. One day I stopped there. It says, I had not put that he married a Youngblood, right?
I believe so.
And I had not put, I saw her mother working there. And I said, what are you doing here? And I said, she said, I know. I put it all together. But so I think that is nice too when the family gets together and does something like that. So all those things are good. My kids grew up around Farmers Day. You know, those 3 days, and even before Farmers Day, all the stuff you had to do beforehand. And they always were part of it, whether they were in the parade or in the play or helping sell popcorn or whatever we needed them to do. They always were, real handy, and so it was very nice. So,
did you see the Great Pork Review?
Yes, I did. It was a swine review.
The Great Swine, forgive me, the Great Swine Review.
Yeah. They had nice crowds. The 2 or 3 times I stopped while they were doing, I sat through one whole show and then you just, kind of go over and look. But they had nice crowds, the shows I looked at. Even there was one show Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and my son was going down to it with his family. Came back and said they put it off till 6 o'clock because it's too hot. And so, but they went at 6, and he said there was a nice crowd for that one. And so on Saturday, so yeah, we got a call about the carnival. But apparently, the carnival, one of the booths was giving out live rabbits as prizes. So somebody put something on Facebook about how wrong that they shouldn't be doing this sort of thing. Well, then the government agency in Des Moines in charge of that sort of thing picked up on it and called us. And so I think Mike and Alan went over and talked to the carnival guys. Hey, we can't be doing this.
Yeah.
And that was our responsibility. Once we did that, we were off the hook with this thing. And so I think they did stop. The people in Des Moines said they got the same thing. They were doing it in Winthrop the week before when they were there.
Oh, really?
And got told us not to do it there. So I don't know what's going on with them, but they won't be back next year. You would think in today's world, people would know that you can't be giving, people used to give out little chicks at Easter, dye them, and then the little kids would kill them and everything, playing with them, that, you don't do that sort of thing anymore. But
there are a couple of the larger chain stores that still sell those little chicks.
Oh, do they really?
During the Easter time.
Oh, okay.
They do.
I did not realize that, but
like you say, it's not like when you and I were a kid and you would go to the dime store and get 2 or 3 of those for a dime.
Yeah. It was a different time. But I know we've had petting zoos here before that have gotten reported, and people are very touchy about abusing animals, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
And so you have to be careful with animal acts and with petting zoos and this kind of stuff anymore, because people will get involved with that where they would ignore other things. Something with animals they will get involved with, and they will say something and try to get something correct.
So Dale, you said that you've probably done Farmers Day for at least a quarter of a century.
Oh yeah.
What event in all of those? And somebody asked me about this when I retired from teaching, and there's multiple things. But what one event jumps out in your mind about Farmers Day?
Something that we've had?
Yeah.
Well, it would be 25 years ago when they had the Vietnam Wall, that replica wall set up at St. A. And the planning, and I had very little to do with the planning or anything like that. But to set it up, and then we had a lot of military personnel around that worked with that, and you had it lit and you had it open 24 hours a day, and so people could come, but you had to have security, and that's just just a person there. And I know I took a shift from like 2 to 4 or something in the morning, early in the morning, and saw people coming and doing the names, and sometimes kneeling and saying a prayer and that sort of thing. So that probably was the most meaningful one we've ever had, and we got lots of people in for that, thousands of extra people, I think. And and that's, if it works out, we'll have that next year, but we can't say for sure yet, because you have to apply, do this, and then wait. They'll make a decision in September where they're going. So
is that through a government agency?
No,
does that?
It's a private agency, and they have completely redone the wall. It's supposed to be, I don't know if it's bigger, but it's better material. The names are easier to read, and this sort of thing is what I understand. But they haven't just kept peddling the same old stuff, but they have revamped it and modernized it, making it better. And so, and the last thing, they had computers where you could look up names and find the section of the wall they were at and all that sort of thing. And then we had several ceremonies throughout the week for different purposes and for different people. And so that probably was the most moving thing we've ever had here.
Right.
So as far as I'm concerned, I know the firefighters loved it when we had the 9/11 people here. They were here twice. We've had helicopter rides and
balloon rides. I remember the balloon rides.
Yeah, I think we had a helicopter ride too. When you said something about the Rhinebeck celebration in 1974, Deb and I lived in Rhinebeck, and we took a helicopter ride during their Rhinebeck days, which is always over the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I remember we're in this helicopter, kind of gets, when you see a helicopter that doesn't have any machine guns in it, it sticks out. You say, something's wrong with this helicopter. And then you realize it doesn't have any machine guns sticking out the window. But it was funny. It's sort of like going up in an elevator. But you can swoop off to the side. Then it was $10 a piece, I suppose, back then. You flew us around Rhinebeck, and then
you'd been in an elevator in a helicopter obviously before.
Yeah, I was.
But Dev had.
Yeah, because I was in a helicopter. I was medevac to Vietnam, and I was in a helicopter. Flew us to Japan, and then at the airport we got another helicopter to fly to the hospital. And so, the one in Japan didn't have any machine guns in it either, which we thought was strange. And so, but those are the 2 times that I flew at Rhinebeck. So it wasn't a natural thing for me to be in a helicopter. It was just an accident. You just go up. You're just sitting there, and almost boop, you just go straight up. Just kind of up and away. And so, very interesting ride. So every time I think of Rhinebeck, I remember that when you mentioned that.
This
I wanted to tell you something else about Clint Fortier. Nice kid. He was did you have him in class?
Yes.
He's a handful in class when he was little. and he was telling me how he had talked to Mrs. Shears recently, Terry Shears, about his time in her class, and he said, well, he was tightly wound when he was a kid. And I said, well, yeah, I guess you were, but I never heard anybody describe themselves as such. But just the nicest guy. But he was a handful in class when he was younger. But he said he was tightly wound. I thought, well, that's really a very apt description of how he acted. So I just had a real chuckle. It's funny how kids remember things a little differently the way you remember them, but they're all forgiving. Every kid I ever had trouble with in school, you see them as adults, they're very forgiving. They're just
and we're real fortunate, Dale, you and I.
Yeah.
To have had the job we had and the students we had.
Yeah. I can tell you one other thing. It's funny how you meet people, but I was at a baseball game for my grandson in Ankeny, and my daughter Joy was there, and Joy's classmate was Paul Yeager, who we talked about quite a bit on this program, and he was in the same class as Joy. And she said, I think that umpire, the home plate umpire, is Paul Yeager's son. And I looked at him, and you could see a real resentment, so I went over between innings, and I said, are you a Yeager? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm from Jesup, so I'll tell your grandma that I saw you and that you're doing a really good job. Oh, you're from Jesup? Yeah, okay. So that was it. Well, next inning, he comes over and said, what's your name? And then I told him, and Joy was right there, and he says, well, something about Paul turning 50 this year. Well, Joy just turned 50 yesterday,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it was just kind of interesting. And he said he was not a very good baseball player, but he loved baseball, so he's gotten into umpiring, and I looked to me like he'd done it quite a bit. And I'm not sure how old he is. He's high school or maybe college, but he did a real nice job. And you can tell he's umpired quite a bit. And so it was very interesting how you run into people.
It is a
people
small
that know
world.
People. So yeah, so
It is a
I thought
small
that was
world.
fun.
This is speaking of shout outs, we had Nell McMartin on a couple weeks ago, and he asked us to do a shout out to Melanie out on the West Coast. Her maiden name was Melanie Ewall, I believe, and we just want to say hi to Melanie and thank her for listening. She's one or two listeners. Thank you so much for being one or two listeners.
We should say hi to Noah Yeager, too, because he indicated that he listens to the podcast and thought we had some interesting perspectives on some things. And we didn't have time to go because the game started again, but I thought it was nice of him to say it wasn't just his dad made him listen, but that he had heard some of the podcasts. So I thought that was nice. So Noah, if you're listening, thank you very much.
Thank you, Noah. Someday if we ever meet, we'll tell you the secrets about your father, too.
Maybe we can go live in Ankeny someday.
We are. Speaking of live, on the 30th of July, we are in negotiations to have a live show in Independence at Getney's, and also show about 4 artists there that night.
Okay.
We just started the process today, so there's more information to come for that show. The days go by fast.
Oh, they really do. Yeah, I can't believe July's here already.
Yeah.
We could set Blake in the middle, have 4 artists around him, have a draw-a-thon or something, or artists should draw, a portrait of Drake and have a judge there or something.
Well, I want to tell our audience there's a plein air event going to take place in Atkins, Iowa. I believe it is Saturday the 27th. That's Saturday. 40 artists. It's the Bloomfield Farm. It's a flower farm.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry, where's this at?
In Atkins, Iowa.
Okay.
And they bring 40 artists in, and the artists can paint whatever scene that they see on the farm.
Okay.
And so it's a 4-hour event. So I'm asking you and Mrs. Rueber if you want to go that Saturday morning.
Okay.
And Blake, if you want to go with us, you're more than welcome. Anybody, the 1 or 2 people that are listening, let me know. You're more than welcome. We'll put you in the back of my pickup truck if you want to go with us.
And you give me the date later on. We'll write, so I write it down.
We will.
Okay. That sounds good.
We will. So this is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Another question I have, wandering away from the Farmer's Day. Now let's talk about the title of it. Farmer's Day.
Yeah.
Is it Farmer's Days? Is it Farmer's Day?
No.
It's multiple days, really.
Yeah, but it started out as one day years ago. about 100 years. And see, some years they didn't have it. Some years they had a big cattle, the Cattle Congress. They had a big show kind of like that in Jesup that took the place of Farmers Day. And then during the war, they were years where they didn't have Farmers Day. But as I understand it from reading the book, it was a day just for the businesses to let farmers know how much they appreciated their business. And so they had things in town. And it was Farmers Day. It was a day for the farmers. And even though it's been expanded to 2.5 days, more or less, it's still called Farmers Day. No apostrophe S and no plural on the day. Just Farmers Day is what it's called.
So I believe that I have a writing about Farmers Day here. That I don't think I've ever read it on here. I may have. I'll try to read that for you. It's called Farmers Day here. My eyes don't make fun of my eyes like that. Blake, stop that. You're being mean to me now. Stop that.
Here comes the train. All right, you can hear the train now.
Jesup Farmers Day, a righteous convergence of sweat, dust, trains, and a small town revelry where the scent of grilled pork tangles with exhaust fumes of antique tractors, and every man, woman, and child emerges blinking into the sunlight like prophets of an agrarian dream. This is just not a festival, Dale. It's a mystic pilgrimage, a holy rolling thunder of lemonade and funnel cake. An annual reminder of civilizations was built not by silicone chips, but by calloused hands and those who wrangled the earth itself.
All right.
You arrive, stepping into Young Street, where gravity feels heavier beneath the weight of generations. Here, neighbors who can predict the rain better than any TV meteorologist, Alan Wright. Swap knowing glances while kids chase after the parade's airborne candy with the primal hungry of fledgling rap. The beer tent, a sacred oasis, beckons all who have plowed fields or merely plowed through life's miseries. Inside, legends are told, exaggerations are spun, and somehow every person claims they know the Grand Marshal before he was annoying. The Knights of Columbus bingo is not just a contest of luck, but a battle of wills. Men and women, children versus the rolling numbers for a small fortune of $5 to $10 while they read their cell phones. There's no more intimate communion with the American soul than the sight of an elementary student shouting bingo. And then there is the parade, an event as ancient as the Olympian Games, where the warriors of wars and church go through the streets of Jesup as proud as early Romans on their way to the Forum. Here the essence of Jesup is distilled, no pretense, no hesitation, just pure unfiltered commitment to life's simple pleasures. The night lingers in neon carnival light, laughter floating up into the dark Iowa sky. People sing along to cover bands that play both Johnny Cash and Bon Jovi with equal fervor, and somewhere in the distance a boy and a girl, likely barefoot, share a moment that will be recalled decades later when Farmers Day rolls around again. And when the dust finally settles and Young Street is left to the crickets, one truth remains. Jesup Farmers Day, notice I say Farmers Day, is not merely an event. It is a reminder that life is meant to be lived loudly, humorously, and with more than a little dust on your boots.
And who wrote that?
Me, along with a guy named AI.
Well, send me a copy.
I will.
I will get that to Mr. Wright. I bet he would love to have that. So
I'll send that.
That was very nicely done.
Thank you. And thanks to AI.
AI. Okay.
There
and
we
I
go.
don't know what part of it is AI.
Like the barefoot part and the boy and the girl part, and I had to
just
put in the
suggests
Young
that?
Street, and
It suggests that?
it suggests that.
Okay. Okay.
It adds certain things to it. So this is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. So Dale, let's talk the big beautiful bill.
It depends on who you believe, I guess. It just barely got through the Senate. So it's going back to the House. There's a lot of House guys. And so, I don't know. People are afraid that no matter what they say about it not hurting Medicaid, that it will. If that happens, then people are going to die. And hospitals are going to close, and more people are going to die, and people are going to be out of work. And so I don't know. That's the big thing, is where they're trying to save money. They want to build more of the wall, which I'm not sure is a good idea, and they want to spend a lot more money on the military and It sounds like the national debt is going to go up, what, between $3 and $4 trillion.
You know,
like that.
but if you listen to Republicans, they say no, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, who's lying the hardest?
Has it ever happened that whichever party says, no, it won't add up, has come true?
Well, no.
No, it always goes. Yeah, it always goes up, and they were going to have that trickle down theory and this sort of thing, but it always goes up. And so you got nothing.
Dale, did you ever, as a teacher, receive a bonus?
No, I never did.
Okay. The 1 year I taught at Don Bosco, I received a $10 bonus.
Okay.
You know, basically, the principal gave all us teachers a $10 bill is what
Yeah.
he gave us for Christmas, which
Yeah.
Mr. Palmer was wonderful. You know,
Yeah.
I've got to give Mr. Palmer a shout out. All the ICE guys in this bill receive a $42,500 bonus for the year.
Yeah.
It is. We don't give bonuses in government. It's not a private business.
Yeah. I don't believe in bonuses. I mean, if you sign a contract to do a job, you're saying, I will do this job to the best of my ability for this much money. But by some chance, if I do it even better than I thought I could, I would get extra money. To me, you should be doing it the very, very best you can. You're getting money to do the job. You should do the job to the very, very best that you can. If you're hired to be the CEO, I'm going to give you $5 million this year to run our company, and if the company makes extra money, well, that's your job to make your company make extra money. It's no reason why you should get part of that, because you were hired to do the best job you could for the company. And that's what you did, and the company made money, and so therefore maybe you'll get a raise in salary or something. But I just don't see where you hire on for X number of dollars to do a job, but you expect that if I actually do the job, I'm gonna get a whole bunch more money. You know, like ball players have incentive clauses. You know, if you pitch more than 200 innings, you get an extra $150,000. Football coaches, you know, if you're in the top 10 at the end of the year, you get X number of money. If you go to a bowl game and win, you get extra money. If you go to the national championship series, you know, in game, you get extra money. And to me, that's your goal from day one of the season. That's what you're supposed to do, is to do that, and that's what you're getting paid for.
There is the argument, though, Dale, that you're also paying people to fail.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, that's true too. But you understand what I'm saying?
Oh,
That,
yeah,
you know,
I understand
you're
what
supposed
you're
to
saying.
do the best job
Yeah,
you can.
you understand, yeah.
And
That's why communism failed, though.
yeah, well, but the communism, you know, here, if you do the best job you can and you exceed expectations, then your chances of getting a better job or making more money is there for you in a new contract of some kind. But you know, you shouldn't need a bonus to do your job.
Okay.
You know, that's what you're supposed. You know, I won $150K. Well, you're supposed to. You know, if you can, you're supposed to, because that's what we're paying you for, is to win as many games as you can.
The bonus of the ice cream that I used to get from Mr. Horn at the end of the year was inappropriate for me.
Well, I think Mr. Horn probably thought you were a nice guy and thought you needed an ice cream cone or something.
You know, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and we live in a capitalistic society. I don't think in a government business there should be a bonus, but
No.
if it's a private industry
Yeah.
and the boss wants to give you a bonus, I think that's all right.
That's up to them, yeah. But government, you know, how do you budget for that?
Yeah. I mean, well,
yeah.
obviously they're trying to in the big beautiful bill. Speaking of,
Well, but they don't budget because they always spend more money than they make.
speaking of
Yes,
that,
sir.
you and I live in the dream and get a small chunk of Social Security each month.
Yeah.
Thank you to all that pay in. Keep paying
Keep working.
in.
Go to work every day.
Yeah, make sure you get there.
We don't hide it under the mattress. We spend it.
We do.
You go out there, you got old people all over the place spending money.
But we are going to get. See, I don't think we're going to get it in the check back. I think it looks like, if I understood the explanation of it, we will get it in a return check at the end of the year.
Oh, from internal revenue? That?
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks, although the administration wants to eliminate the internal revenue.
Oh, sure. We'll just pay on the honor system, right?
Yeah.
How's that going to work?
No tax. A true conservative, and I don't believe there are very few true conservatives in our government anymore. But a true conservative believes in no taxes and believes that the government should stay hands off, where the state should take care of the taxes, not the federal government.
Yeah, I don't think that would work. People cheat.
I've heard that.
And, if you are paying for insulin and they give you water, and so you paid, $10 for a vial of insulin and they gave you some water or some, even hair tonic or something in that needle, somebody has to be there to say, no, you can't do that. There's got to be a Food and Drug Administration saying, if you say it's insulin, and we're going to check it. If you say that this jar of peanut butter was processed and put in that jar and sealed under pristine sanitary conditions, and it is peanut butter and nothing but peanut butter, somebody ought to be able to check that. And the states can't do that. You need a federal government. You need somebody that's in charge of all this that could say, these are the rules and we're watching.
Why can't state do that?
Well, because you want Iowa also to have the same kind of operation set up to check peanut butter that comes into the state?
Well, if Illinois checks it for us, then we should be fine.
Okay, if Mississippi said, oh, this stuff is okay,
then we're fine.
You think so?
If they've got an agency that checks them, which they should, that's what a conservative says.
Yeah, but you look at some of those, this is stereotyped now, some of those southern governments that say a lot but cheat a lot, that skim all the money off the top and this sort of thing, and are not honest with people. They're more concerned making money. I wouldn't trust a product that was certified by Mississippi or Alabama.
But those same people that are working in those southern places are still doing those checks in those southern places.
Yeah.
The same people. Just a different government would be in charge of that deal.
No, see, I guess I don't. Because, like if peanuts are grown in, say peanuts are a huge part of the Alabama economy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but just suppose. Peanuts are a huge part of the economy in Alabama, and you have Alabama people checking. The Alabama peanut growers, who are all millionaires and want to stay millionaires and make more and more money, they are very susceptible to being bought off, bribed off, turned and look the other way while things happen. If I can fill a peanut butter jar 3/4 full of peanut butter and 1/4 full of salad oil and save a lot of money, I'm making tons more money.
Right.
But you're not getting tons more. You're not getting good peanut butter. And so, to me, there has to be federal regulations.
All right. I'm not saying I just.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm just giving
I know
you
what
the
you're
other
doing.
side.
But even like it's the Mann Act, taking I guess it was basically taking people across state lines for immoral purposes.
Yeah.
And you have to, there has to be, if that was a federal crime, because the states can't.
Interest.
Each other, yeah. You can't. There's got to be some things that are interstate trucking. You don't want to have 50 different rules for truck drivers. Weight limits, how many hours you can drive a day, this kind of thing. You want one, because they're going from state to state to state. You want one set of rules, and then the one government, which would be the federal government, can.
I think Elon ran into that problem.
Well, yeah, Elon. They're talking about him going back to Africa. Trump thinks he's going to go broke. So.
That's the issue. President Trump argued that the government was after him. Well, now a lot of people say the government is after the Democratic side of things.
Well, that's one of the main faults I find with President Trump is that, if things don't go his way, he threatens. If the judge rules against him, he wants to get rid of the judge. If a legislator votes against the bill he wants, then he wants to get rid of that legislator. And, that's not the way the game is supposed to be played.
Forgive me, the Supreme Court ruled yesterday or the day before that the district courts are ruling out of their boundaries. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, he's going to have even more power.
Yeah. What's interesting that Musk was saying he's going to start helping people in primaries. That people voted for this bill, he's going to try to get rid of them with. And I imagine he'll do that by giving them lots of money.
Yeah.
And Trump, that's one of his things. He's going to primary you and get you out of there. And the one senator say, well, screw you, I'm not going to run again. So,
The guy from North Carolina.
yeah. So he said, I'm not going to run again, so what do I care? And it was interesting because, and they didn't say what the deal was, but the senator from Alaska, at the last minute, switched over and voted yes. And the reporter questioned her if she got something for that, and she didn't answer. And she said, I'm looking out for the people of my state that elected me to the Senate. That's all she said. So it'll be interesting what kind of deal she made for Alaska that was whatever, so that she would vote for that bill, because it wouldn't have passed without her.
One example that she got was the whaling captain can write more stuff off now. That's one example.
So who can?
The fishing captain in Alaska, the whaling captain, can write more stuff off on their boats.
Deduct things.
Yeah,
okay.
deductible.
All right.
That's one example they got. Now there's other now. There's all sorts of things today. What's her name? Lisa Markowski.
Something like that. Yeah.
Her dad was the senator. He died, and she got the office. I believe is what happened.
Okay.
I was thinking it was either her dad or her husband. She changed her mind. Rand Paul and the guy from North Carolina, and there was a third one. Oh, the lady from Maine, Sue Davis. Were the three. But now, I'm on the road a lot, and I was listening to Hannity, and Hannity said, I spent all last night on the phone talking to Congress or Senator. He's as much. He is another Elon inside of President Trump's government, an outside impact person. This is C. Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. So. One more thing, and then I know you've got a couple things you want to talk about there. What about Zoran Mamdani?
Is that a racehorse? Or, no. Is that the guy from New York City?
For $5, Blake, without looking at your phone, do you know who Zoran Mamdani is?
Not a clue.
Okay. Good, it saved me $5. Zoran Mamdani, he was the Democratic nominee. He won the primaries for the mayor of New York City. He beat a Cuomo.
Yeah. It was an upset, right?
Yeah. So. And he came from getting 1% of the vote to beating him handily. Now, the Republicans want him beat awful bad because every podcast I heard yesterday, Mark Levine and Sean Hannity and what's the guy's name on in the morning?
She's still on?
Yeah, all of them led the show with this man.
Yeah.
And they want him beat bad.
Yeah.
They claim that he wants government run in New York City. Well, what he wants to do is build grocery stores and food deserts in New York City.
Yeah.
They claim that he wants to tax white people more. He wants to tax the neighborhoods that have larger income. Well, the largest incomes in New York City are white people.
White people, yeah.
They're doing
They'll do a number on him, I'm sure.
They're attacking him hard.
Yeah.
But right now, he has a 75% chance of winning. Dale, remind me to get that bet down when we get off the air.
And the election is November, I'm assuming. Yeah, okay. He's got a ways to go yet.
He does. See, I worked for Andrew Yang in 16. It would have been 20, forgive me.
Okay.
And he was mistreated by the Democratic chairman. I mean, they did everything to see that Biden would be elected. And I don't see the Democratic Party being real good to Mamdani. He calls himself a Democratic Socialist, Dale. Those radio guys want to call him a communist. Where do you stand on it? Where do you stand on it?
Well, I don't think a lot about New York politics, for one thing, and so I don't have a lot to say. But I think if the people of New York are happy with his policies and they want to vote for him, I think that's fine, and he can govern then as best he can. I imagine he has a city council he has to work with and that sort of thing, and so it's like, if he gets the votes, they need to let him run it.
One of them said he could win the election 31% of the votes.
Oh, okay. They don't have runoffs or anything until somebody gets 50% or...
Cuomo's in again. There's a podcaster out there that's in, and I forget the fourth man. There's 4 guys in there.
Okay.
If there's 3 guys, he could win with 34% of the vote. So is it a fair election?
Well, I like it. I like runoff where you get it down to 2 people. Unless if you have 4 people running, if somebody gets over 50% of the vote, that's it. But if you don't get 50% of the vote, then you have to have a runoff. You drop them out to the top 2, run again. And I know there's some move to overturn that. I know there's a movement where do you remember what they call it? Where you vote for your first choice and your second choice, that sort of thing.
They did that in the Democrat election in the primaries in New York City.
Okay, so I don't know if they will go to that sort of thing or not for the general election or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I like the idea that at least 50% of the people plus 1 wanted you to be mayor.
Right.
And again, people get all excited, but you look at your numbers and sometimes, well, I got a mandate, but you got majority of the people didn't bother to vote. So that's your mandate right there. You got a mandate of maybe you got 60% of the people who voted, but there's a whole lot of people that didn't vote at all. And so you can't really say that you're the people's choice or anything.
Right.
You're just the people that bothered to vote. I know people that have never voted in their lives, and they are older people, and I don't understand it. That they never got excited about anybody or wanted something to change, or I don't know.
So, all right, I'll be the devil's advocate again then. I'll be that person that, although I vote religiously. How's government affected you today, Dale?
Today?
Well,
you figure the Social Security program affects me.
No, today.
I'm sorry, now what?
Today.
Right now, today? Actually, not at all that I know of.
So then why do you need to vote?
Well, because I'm concerned about society in general. I think everybody, whether or not, if you don't have any children, but it's still important to you for there to be a public school, because those people that go to public school end up doing better, earning more, taking care of people more, and so that affects you in a way. It's down the road, but it's still, and so these laws that say, if you send your kid to private school, you don't have to, you get your money back.
Yeah.
Well, the public school is still important to those people. They ought to pay the public school to keep the public school going. So that would be my thing, is that everything that they do in government that makes people unhappy, that makes me unhappy too. So,
I understand that.
A lot of sad people that brings me down, man.
So here's the argument that people have anymore is people don't value the government. All they see is the negative of the government.
Yeah. And that's what, when you say, okay, and I use Trump because he's the handiest example. He says the Department of Justice is crooked. They do things this way and do things that way. They're against people and this sort of thing. So he brings them down. Well, people need to believe that the Department of Justice is going to be there for them. Right. Is doing a good job for them. And just because he doesn't like a decision, that doesn't mean the whole thing is corrupt or terrible or whatever. I mean, it's been doing the job for a long time. But if you tear everything down, then when you need it yourself, it's not going to be there for you. And I don't think they look that far ahead.
You're right.
I think they're so short-sighted. They don't see, look down the road. What could possibly go wrong with this whole idea? And it could come back and bite you in the butt, just like you're trying to do it for other people right now.
This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. We still don't know where Dale stands on Mr. Mamdani, but
I really have no opinion. I think if he can convince the people in New York City to vote for him, then go for it, man. And if you have policies, maybe you're the wave of the future. New York City today, tomorrow the world. If that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But you ought to get a shot at it, and it sounds like he is.
If history treats me well, I know Franklin Roosevelt was the mayor of New York City. I can't remember if Teddy was or not. The mayor of New York City has a little more power than a lot of mayors do.
Well, yeah, I think so. So,
it's interesting. This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Dale wants to talk about Alligator Alley.
Well, I was going to talk about a couple other things first. The school is winding down up there, baseball, softball season, and the baseball team is playing in districts this week. The week we're doing the podcast, not the week of the podcast.
Right.
So I don't know how they're going to do. But they're playing Parkersburg, so I don't think they have much of a chance. But they're playing July 5th. So they will play sometime this. If they should win that game, they'll play sometime this week again. Okay.
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 All right.
I didn't write it down because I have no faith in them. So, but they've had a tough season, and the girls softball regionals are at Hudson this coming week.
Okay.
So you need it, and I wrote down everything except the day.
Yeah, I understand.
But look for that. They're playing at Jesup, so it shouldn't be too hard to find out. But they're starting, and they're playing Hudson at Jesup sometime this week. I was going to say, any of our former high school students that happen to be listening, your parking lot, the high school parking lot, is beautiful. It's blacktop, several inches thick blacktop, crisp, straight, clean, yellow lines all over it, and it's just a thing of beauty. And so that rocky, muddy place you parked all those years is gone. And I think you can thank the new auditorium for this. But your kids will have a good place to park in school. And I was talking with Jeff Gerhardt Tuesday, and he was reminding me that parking lot used to be the old softball field when we only had one softball field. That's where the girls' high school and Maynard Routson, and then
Mr. Elson.
Rod Elson coached teams on that field. Then they got the new fields built over there where the complex is, and things got a lot better.
Right.
But I remember trying to get playing time for my little league teams on that one field, bouncing around. And sometimes you have something scheduled, and Elsa shows up. Well, he was having softball practice because they were having, it wasn't scheduled, but they were in a tournament or whatever. And so it used to be a little complex to work it. It had lights that weren't real good, and I think we played church softball up on that field too.
Yeah, I remember
for years.
that.
Yeah. But anyway, that looks really, really nice up there. I can tell you also about the 591 Event Center this coming week. Judy's Food Truck is here on the 8th. That's Tuesday from 11 to 2. And if you ever work at CoWork591, they have a free work day. You can work remotely for free down here at CoWork591, and you can eat Dominique's Seafood. You ever had Dominique's Seafood?
No, but I love
11 to 2.
seafood.
Yeah, it is good for you. So that's happening. The library got their sheet for July. Man, they got a lot of stuff going, and I'll try to read it to somebody. But the exercise group we talk about all the time, 8 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And the card games are Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. But they're having crafty creations where you can, on Fridays at 10 o'clock, the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th, you need to register at the website. And the International Supper Club is July 23rd, which sounds kind of good. Join us for an evening of international dishes, potluck style. Registration required by July 9th, and then you also get recipes. The Raptor Project is July 15th, and we learn about birds of prey. And they're going to have live raptors there. That'd be eagles and hawks, falcons, those sort of thing. And that'll be in the City Hall basement. And so I went to a raptor program in Guttenberg, and they had like a stage in there, like a community room, and they had a little stage, and they had it covered with tarps. And people look at it, but those birds squirt a lot of white material. And I didn't realize that when they get ready to fly, they squirt and then they fly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the guy was saying maybe it's to reduce their weight a little bit. They didn't really know why they did it, but before an eagle would take off, give a squirt, and then fly away.
Interesting.
So I did not know that myself. Stories in the Park for the Little Tots at 10:30 a.m. on Thursdays. That's July 10, 17, 24, and 31. The Family Lego Challenge is on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock, where families can come and challenge each other. The Mega Foam Blaster Sunday. You ever seen the foam blasters when they go? They shoot foam all over.
Oh, okay.
And it's one of our most popular summer events. Come enjoy the Mega Foam Blaster with Buchanan County Libraries. And that's at Independence Riverside Park. Some of these I'll skip because they're quite a ways away towards the end of the month. The Movie Mondays are on hiatus until October, so don't show up for the movie.
Okay.
Hiatus means they're not doing it.
Yes, I've heard that.
Have you heard that? Okay.
I heard that one.
All right. I try to help you every chance I can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Paint and Sip with Allie. You can come and have a evening of adult painting, and you get instruction, no cost. Stories, crafts, and more are Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. Bike Safety Roundup, July 17th, you have an educational hands-on bicycle safety clinic, which I think is so important these days because a lot of people are driving, they don't see very well or just don't look. So,
did you know that Iowa per capita is the #1 bike accident death state in the union?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a lot of bad things, don't we?
Yeah.
A Blank Park Zoo is bringing animals. That's out of Des Moines. And so that's the City Hall basement again. That's on July 29th, so later on in the month. So, okay.
All right.
I got a couple questions about Steve Brown Art Center.
Yes.
July the 9th, July 14th, the Sprouting Singers. Can you explain what that is?
Dr. Jessica Saunders is working with the library, and she is working with 3 to 7-year-olds at the library, teaching them how to sing and doing voice lessons, playing games with them. You know, with kids that age, you gotta make it fun. So Jessica, we made a deal with Jessica. She's having 4 days at the library. She did 2 in June, and she'll do 2 more in July.
Okay. And then July 17th, Nick Thomas, a business show at Fairbank.
We are going. We had a day in which we showed Nick Thomas art here in Jesup. Nick was kind enough to donate 30 pieces of art to the Steve Brown Art Center. We sell what pieces we can to help keep the Art Center going, and so we're having 3 shows this year. We had one in the west half of the
Land of Corn
Park in the west half.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they called the west half that. I knew they called the east half
the
that.
West End, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
And we're doing one in Fairbank, and then what is the date of that?
July 17th.
July 17th, and then we're doing one. We moved it to August 16th at Brimmer Park, along with the big brass band in Independence, August 16th. Their final event for us.
Okay.
We're going to show Nick's art then too.
Okay. All right. So you're having it July 17th in Fairbank, though.
Yes.
Okay, that's going to go on. And do you know where that's going to be at yet, or?
We are in negotiations. There's a new art gallery over there. It is an art gallery / antique shop.
Okay.
And we're in negotiations with them. We're in negotiations with the government, the city government, and we're in negotiations with the Catholic Church.
Okay.
So it's going to be one of those places.
Now, when you go in an antique store, do people try to buy you, or? That happens to me sometimes.
It happens.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they've offered me too much money.
Okay. July 20th is the next musicians jam session, and I really want to come to that. It's just it's 2 to 3:30, and you're going to find a location yet, it says.
Yeah. Well, that will be again in Land of Corn Park in the
Down on the
pavilion.
stage? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Brass Band is going to be in the Rowley City Park, I see.
They
on
are.
July 25th.
That is during Raleigh days.
Yeah. Okay.
That is their 3rd of 4 events.
Okay. So you can know them quite well.
They are.
They're a nice
good-
kid. I met them
good
when they
group
were
of
down
guys.
here, and they were supposed to play an hour, and I said we had something moved around. I said, you want to play longer? And the guy said, well, we don't have enough material for an hour and a half. And I said, well, play more and we'll make it right. You know, we'll get the money for you. And they played like 45 minutes extra, so they knew more than an hour and 30 minutes of music. But they're just wonderful. So many people told me what wonderful musicians they were, and very interested in seeing them. And,
Good guys.
Lori Routby, Carter Rout's mom, plays with a group of brass ensemble, and she's very good, and she was quite impressed with them. And so, as was Mr. Emick, who also, was a horn player and very good. So, I don't know. Did you see the pictures of the alligator Alcatraz? Or
I saw some of them.
Yeah, they have used an airstrip, and they just put up tents with bunk beds in them, but they're like see-through. It's not really like a tent. There must be a tent roof over it, but more like a fly or something. But very crowded. It's thousands of people, right? It was going to hold. Cost $45 million, or maybe more than that. to house them there, and they're only supposed to be there a week or two at a time, and then they'll be shipped out to their home country. And they were supposed to go after the criminals first, the dangerous criminals, the rapists and the robbers and the murderers. But there's a lot of people that have been deported have no criminal record of any kind. They just got swept up, and so they are gone. And so be interesting with the numbers that are being, if he deports the numbers of people he wants to deport, so who's going to do the work in this country in many areas like meat packing, agriculture, those kinds of things, because they're heavily dependent on labor and hand labor. A lot of immigrants have been doing that kind of work, and so for them. So I don't know how this is all going to come around, but ICE agents are being attacked by some people, and what bothers me about the ICE agents, this will look so third world, is that the ICE agents come to arrest somebody, and the ICE agents have a mask on, no identification of any kind on them, and they could be anybody. And usually that's not the way our country chooses to operate, where the police, usually the bad guys have the mask on, right, and the policeman is open-faced, and here I am, I'm John Law. And so I don't like that. The idea of someone, a black van with no marking stops, a bunch of guys jump out wearing black clothing with a mask on and start throwing people in the van, arresting them. Well, that would scare me.
Their argument is they need to have their face covered because people like you and I are taking pictures of them, and there repercussions are happening to the ICE agents.
Yeah. Well, Trump has alluded to that he'd like to have one of these Florida prisons in every state. He says stuff like that. You don't know if he's serious about it or just talking. But we already have more people in prison than any other country in the world, and I don't know why we want to add to that. There's got to be a better way of doing this.
What's the job of prison, Dale? Is it to punish or to educate?
Yeah, well, I always thought it was to educate, but there's always been some element of punishment, and sometimes it's almost all punishment. I mean, some prisoners, they lock them in solitary confinement, 23 hours a day, and then they get 1 hour exercise, sometimes by themselves. And would that make you a better person when you got out, or? I don't know. The idea of rehabilitation is, I really believe in that. I'd like to see people, especially younger people, go to prison and learn a trade or take college courses or do something that would make them a better person, able to go out into the world and live a productive life without worrying about being arrested all the time. And I know, I believe there are some people that you cannot reform. There's some people that'll never change their ways, but you got to give people a chance, I think, to do better. But
I had a sociology professor. He wrote several books on the prison system, including juvenile delinquent systems. And his main argument, when it came to this argument, was that punishment or education, either way, the prison is the best school for a criminal in the world, because you're around other criminals.
Yeah, you get to be a better criminal.
You get to become a better criminal.
I've heard that before, yeah. What do you think about this kid in Idaho that has pled guilty to killing the 4 students? And they say he pled guilty so he would not get the death penalty.
Well, did he plead guilty for the 4 students, or did he plead guilty for 1 student because the one family was just...
No, I think what I heard was it was 4 counts of murder, and he gets life imprisonment without parole for each count, and 1 count of kidnapping. I can't remember what the other thing was. It was, he's already going to prison for life. But I heard that it was 4 counts of murder.
Okay. Life
imprisonment. So when I heard this, I thought, okay, what I've seen before is when you take a plea like this, you have to stand in front of the judge. And I heard on the news the judge said, "Are you pleading guilty because you did these crimes?" And the kid said, "Yes, sir." And that's all he was asked. And I always thought when you pled guilty, the judge would ask you, okay, what did you do? Why did you do it? How did you do it? This sort of thing, so that the story came out. And so far, they're saying he doesn't have to say anything more. That he doesn't have to tell them, the families, why he killed them. He doesn't have to say anything about how he did it, motivation, any of that sort of thing. All that's come out now is that the prosecutors have said, when the sentencing is done and this sort of thing, we will tell the families everything we know. That hasn't come out yet. And so, I think his chances of getting the death penalty, I mean, what, 3 people in Idaho in the last 50 years or something? I know, but apparently that did bother him about getting the death penalty, unless he has some other motive or reason for doing this that he hasn't said yet. And you can bet your dollar, there'll be a movie or a book or something, telling the untold story. And to me, that's, that's sad. And there's supposed to be a law that you cannot profit from your crimes like that. Yeah. But, there's ways around that too, so.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting, I guess, interesting is the word, to see how this all turns out. But I was surprised that he did not have to provide more information. Because sometimes, people will confess to crimes they didn't do.
Right.
And so a lot of times what I've seen is that judges will say, okay, tell me what happened. How did you do it? And see if what he says matches the evidence that they have. And if it doesn't, then the judge can refuse the plea bargain.
Okay.
But I guess in this state, apparently there's none of that. So.
Well, that's Idaho, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a big case.
Oh, yeah. And it took so long to get it sorted out.
Yeah.
And those attorneys that he had, and you wonder, I guess it's good to put up an aggressive defense and everything. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. But they just, did everything, every little thing possible to put a roadblock into this thing, making motions after motion after motion that were all denied because they had no merit. But they pushed every way they could, and you can't say they didn't do the best they could for this guy,
right?
With what they had.
A lot of lawyers make their careers off of cases like that.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I suppose that's true. And I don't know if his family has money. I don't know anything about his family. If they have money to pay the lawyers or what. But the legal fees, I'm sure, will be horrific.
All right. Well, is there anything else?
No, I'll let that go for now. I've pontificated enough. That's another good word. I could get. You play Scrabble? We should play Scrabble.
We need to. All right. Let's check it out. Make sure you check out What's Up with Bubba Seaman. Next week is Dale and I are on there for part
vacation.
2.
I mean, we're on assignment.
On assignment.
Yes.
A few things. Don't forget. Check out, we've got a new artist up in M's Coffee, Alex DeGrief. Alex DeGrief was on our show earlier in the year, and he is now, his art is now hanging. Okay. Alex isn't hanging, his art is hanging in M's Coffee. Don't forget the jam session, the 3rd Sunday of every month, as Dale talked about. Don't forget the artist collaboration that takes place from 6:30 until 7:30 at the American Lutheran Church in Jesup, 4th Monday of every month. A quick shout out to our artist in resident, Richard Moore Kelly, as he is recovering from surgery.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. So.
Yeah, and I want to say hi to him. Don't forget the 24-hour Mustang Cam, sponsored by Joe's Pizza and Independence. You'll be able to. You could have seen the parade July 4th. We're looking for audience help to meet 12 artists, and we've done that so far.
Yeah.
This year. If you'd like to donate to Steve Brown Art Center or have an idea for an event, go to stevebrownartcenter.org and follow the link. If you have news or would like to sponsor us, email us at jim@stevebrownartcenter.org or grab Dale and say, Dale,
sure.
Dale, we want to talk about this. So
just make sure I write it down.
There you go. Call 319-290-0241 and leave a message. Blake Tempus over here in this corner and Dale Rueber here in this corner. I deem it a draw.
Well, thank you, Jim.
I'm Jim Gillespie. As always, thanks to Sean Westfall and Kelly C. Haas at CoWork591 Studios for hosting us and sponsoring us. Thanks to the audience for allowing these stray dogs into your life. Remember that each day is about little victories.
There you go.